that seems to be working. So I'm 2 out of 2 so far, and seeing how that goes. Today, I sent you a script, or at least I posted a script. I sent it to Scott, but I posted on our EXIT Realty Elite site the script, and it actually has to do, Pascal is on, so let me let him in. It had to do with a question that was brought up last week when we were doing our scripts. And one of the questions that was brought up, or one of the concerns, is how do we react to the objection, I want to wait to see what the market is going to do, or I'm not ready to move forward yet. And so what do we say if they just might say that, or they might say prices are coming down, and prices are coming down, we just want to wait and see what happens. It's going to happen, you guys, and prices aren't coming down. There was a little bit of a correction nationally in December, but things are steadying off. So these few objections we're going to be talking about are things that you may likely hear. This script that I provided to you is a Tom Ferry script, which I have so many, that I've saved and so forth. And you can see I've got, little things, or maybe you can't see. I've got things scribbled all over it. And this is called the Virtual Agent Script Book. And it actually was something that Tom Ferry put out when COVID hit. And if you look through from the beginning of the script, you're going to see that it kind of leans that way, where he's talking to people more in language to talk about how are you, how are your feelings, have you been sick, blah, 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 blah. And it was more of scripts to be consoling rather than to be selling or advising. But we're going to start at page 11, I believe. Yeah, it's page 11. We're going to start, and we'll get going right from there. Now, I'm going to try to share my screen. If this works, it's going to be just dandy. And if it doesn't, it's going to really suck bad. But let's see what happens. Click on that. Okay. Can you see this, you guys?
No.
Oh God. Okay, let me try this. Yeah, I was 2 for 2. I was doing really good. Okay, share screen, and then I'm going to hit share, and then I'm going to open that up, and then I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to hit this. Can you see that?
No.
Yes? No?
No.
Crap. God. Okay, let's see, what else can I share screen?
Hey,
Yeah.
Jim,
Yeah.
I've got it pulled up here. Maybe you want me to try to share it. I don't know if I can have any better luck than you.
Well, can you try it? That'd be great. That'd be great.
That
Yeah.
you're not working on a Mac again. This is a different platform.
Tom, quit giving me grief. I've got a Mac.
Oh, okay. Well, you hand me a Dell computer, I can't do it after having been on a Mac forever.
Okay, so I'm going to depend on Scott from Bend, Oregon to get us through that, to put this up. He looks, oh my God, he's going to be able to do it. Well, Scott has started.
Ooh.
Scott, you're awesome.
Is that showing for everybody? This is page 11, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it. Okay, so
Objection handlers.
I'll just have to say, Scott, scroll for me when, as we're scrolling through this. So scroll up just a little bit so we can read before the conversation. Before the conversation, go back to page 11. You're at page 10. Go a little bit more to page 11, Scott.
Oh, I see. There you go.
Okay. And go just a little bit more. There we go. So this applies for any of the scripts we ever do or that you ever do. Let Mike in. So with any of the scripts that we ever do, know that there's 4 basic guidelines to working scripts and having conversations with people. Forget about scripts, just having conversations. First of all, and I just talked about this with a coach yesterday that I'm probably going to hire for myself, that has to do with making phone calls, because I have a lot of call reluctance. Always have, probably. Well, I don't want to always will. He thinks he can see me out of call reluctance. And so I'm going to coach with him, and I'm going to share it all with you, because I'm guessing everyone here has some call reluctance. You don't always feel comfortable making a call. So anyhow, first thing he did, and that you should do, and why I mentioned him, is build rapport. So you have to discover where they're at in the process, and are they qualifying or working with an established client, blah, blah, blah. What is the client's personality? Are they analytical? You know, at EXIT, we teach a lot, on what people are, if they're D personalities, whatever it might be. So figure out what they are. Second, it's to educate and not debate. That can be hard, because we come from, or should be coming from, a position where we have knowledge, and we can back up that knowledge with facts. And many times we know our clients will come to us with what they think. Worse yet is what they've heard, maybe what they've read, seen on TV, and even worse than that, maybe what they've heard from another real estate agent. I found that's the worst of all situations, is when somebody says to me, well, you know, my aunt is a real estate agent in Colorado. And when I hear that, I'm thinking, oh God, you know, who is this aunt? How long has she been into business? Is she qualified? Is she not? But you know what's going to happen. They're going to trust their aunt, because all of us realtors are, we're shaky. We're, they can't be trusted. We just can't. So don't debate them. Try to educate them back, with those facts that you have. And remember, we have some great resources. We have to fall upon the resources that are available to us. So, resources from Keeping Current Matters on the national scene, and of course, in our own MLS in the local scene. Number 3, dig deeper, ask more questions. Are there any underlying emotions that might be holding them back? You know what, with all of us, I don't know what's in Tom's head. I don't know what's in Kim's head. I don't know what's in any of your heads. There are things going on in all of our lives that we probably haven't shared with everybody, but it has to do with our emotion, our emotional well-being and our healthiness, and so forth. So sometimes when people are coming and asking you questions, when they say that, I don't know if now's the right time to buy, or in this script, I want to wait to see what the market's going to do. That might not be their objection at all. It could be something like, I have an appointment to have a mammogram next week, and I don't know what that might show. Okay. It could be so many different things. 4 is to share your experience. And that's one of the things that we've got. Share your experience, share the experience that you have as a real estate agent, and where you get your information, so we can put them at ease and make them comfortable with us in the conversation. Okay, Scott, I was starting to scroll this myself, but I realized I can't. Go ahead and go down to the client objection. Just scroll down a little bit to the next page, Scott. And for those of you that just joined, Scott in Bend, Oregon is controlling the screen because I wasn't able to share. Can you scroll up a little, Scott?
Are you seeing what I'm seeing here? Client objection, COVID-19 objection handlers?
No.
Nothing's showing.
We're stuck where we were before.
Hang on a second then.
Okay. I wasn't able to bring up my share, everyone. So Scott is trying to accomplish that for us. I appreciate him doing that.
New share. There we go. You see this now?
Well, it's the same screen that I had before. There, that's better. Okay, scroll up. Okay, you can stay right there. Okay, if everybody, I think everybody can see it if I can. So here's the objection. I want to wait to see what the market is going to do. And I know that was, one of the questions last week of somebody, or I want to wait. So let's look at this particular script. And we're not going to look at a lot of scripts today. I sent you a number of pages, but we only have to focus on a couple for today that I think will help us. So here's what this says. The idea here is that you want to serve the clients and back up what you say with data. Okay, data's one of our best friends. What you are saying has to have depth. Otherwise, you are just reading a script. At the end of the day, people can be fearful, and people are. Keep in mind, when they're purchasing a home, for most of us, for most of your clients, that's going to be the single most expensive thing that they've ever bought in their lives. You realize how much faith they're putting in us, people that just got a license because we passed a test after 180 hours of education, and we're able to sell the most expensive thing that they probably ever will buy. I think it's crazy myself, but we're given that. So next, your job is not to convince them why the market is great. Your job is to show them the data. Thank you, Scott, and help them make an educated decision based on their goals. So here are some options. Understand that thinking these are uncertain terms. Now, remember, this script was provided to ferry people when COVID was at its height, or when the scare was at its biggest point in March, April of 2020. And so what Tom Ferry was trying to do was put people at ease with objections like these. So what are you hoping will happen? In certain price ranges, there is still competition for homes. So let's look at this, okay? So this is what he said. I understand what you're saying, Mr. Jones. These are uncertain times. Now, you could use this or not, or these are interesting times. He used uncertain times because we were all, and still are for the most part, in uncertainty. So, Mr. Jones, I understand your thinking. These are uncertain times. What are you hoping will happen? In certain price ranges, now here's where there's going to be changes. Remember, dissecting scripts, taking scripts, crossing things out, putting in language that is comfortable for you or is right for where you're at. Says here, there is still competition for homes due to low inventory and low interest rates. Okay, you might want to change that, there is, or competition remains very high, what word would I use, everybody? Somebody throw a word in. Competition for homes is still very real. Still, can anybody think of a word?
Competitive.
What's that?
Competitive.
Competitive is very competitive, is extreme, is
very good, yeah.
What's that?
No, I just, the market is still competitive.
Okay, is still, and I would try to heighten it because it heightens, still very competitive, and then back it up with some facts. That days on market, that homes are listed to where they're going pending is, or sold is blank days. You need to know the market that you're working in. If it's 7 days, if you need to know how much inventory we have, it's probably at a month, where normal is 6 months. Don't just say it's at a month, because they won't understand what that means. That maybe, they don't get it, but say normal inventory that we have and that we use in our business is 6 months. That means there's enough inventory for buyers, there's enough for sellers, there's enough for everyone. Well, we're at 1 month. So the times are uncertain and the competition is still very real. And then he mentioned low interest rates. Now, I want you all to consider what's happening with interest rates and what's predicted. is everybody aware what is predicted for interest rates by Q4 of this year? Is everybody aware? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yes, you are. Okay, so interest rates are predicted depending on who you talk to. But again, with Keeping Current Matters says that on average by Q4, by the end of the year, interest rates could be at 4%. Okay, that's kind of the prediction. Did anybody watch the video that I made? And I think I posted it. If you didn't, I'm not suggesting you watch the video because I want to be a celebrity and I want a lot of likes on it. I don't care about that. If you do watch the video that I made, it's like 8 minutes long. It's too long. But what I did is I took an actual Keeping Current Matters posting, a blog post, and I basically did a little bit of R&D, right? Rip off and duplicate. So I took exactly what they said for the most part, and I put it on a video. So I know that my facts, the facts that I used, are coming from somebody that, and a number of people that know what they're talking about. Okay, so with this one there is still competition for homes due to low inventory and very low interest rates. And then you might say, but that's not likely to remain. And to be able to switch this script up to say, well, prices are continuing to escalate, interest rates have been low, we may see that prices are going to continue to escalate at a much slower pace. But with the rising of interest rates, do you realize what that will do for your ability to buy a home? So I'm throwing in all kinds of words because I want you to take something simple like this so we can discuss what you might say to somebody that says, I want to wait to see what the market is going to do. Because I think, honestly, here, that's going to hurt them if they wait to buy something, as if interest rates go up. In the comparison that I used in the video from Keeping Current Matters, it showed that if interest rates go up 1%, that for the particular price range that I presented on the video and Keeping Current Matters did, that their monthly payments are going to go from $1,300 a month to $1,500 a month. The fact of the matter is that $200 a month can push some of your buyers out of the marketplace. That's why you need to have a close connection with a lender to know where they're at. You need to ask your buyers for permission to talk to the lender so you can best put together a strategy for them to find the perfect home. And then, so you need to know the numbers so you can help them. I've worked with so many people where $200 a month was the breaking point. It's for some, it meant, I can remember conversations that they weren't going to be able to go out to dinner twice a month like they always have. And for couples, they might say, yeah, we're willing to give that up. But it's awfully hard when you give up something that you've had, even if it's $200. And so for the comparison I did, it was $200. Let's continue to read through the script. Once we get through the next few months, there will likely be more competition. And there will be, everyone, this time of year. It's assumed that when spring comes, because it's been this way for years, except last year primarily, more houses come on the market, but there will likely be more competition, and there'll be more competition. Why? Because more people come into the marketplace. They get spring fever. They get ready to move. It's towards the end of the school year when they get into April and May, and people are thinking about, okay, we need to get moved before the beginning of the next school year. So our child is placed in the school district, school area where they're going to be hopefully over the summer, if they go to the swimming pool, if they go places, they'll meet a few kids that are in school, so they'll be comfortable, and the transition will be comfortable for them. And then this goes on, and who knows what interest rates will be. Right here, you might insert, and we don't know. It says here, who knows what interest rates will be, and you might add, we don't know, but we have indications. The Fed has already told us that in order to slow down interest rates and inflation, to slow down inflation, interest rates are probably going to go up. So are you willing to take that risk? I think that's a great part of the script. Are you willing to take the risk? It's a bullet point that it's challenging them. It's not calling them stupid for not doing it. It's just saying, are you willing to take that risk? What's the cost of staying put where you're at? Let's look at the available inventory this week and see if there is anything I can show you. Any thoughts about what's in this just one paragraph? Any thoughts? I'd love to hear what you think and things that you would add to it or things you might change. This is a collaborative effort, by the way, of all of us. I'm just a facilitator of this. What does anybody think about this? What might you change? And would you use something like this? Does it help you?
I'll tell you what I think. It's amazing how, and I thank God for these Tuesday meetings. You can look at that one paragraph, which doesn't take long to go through and read, and not make as great a point as that you've demonstrated with the knowledge. What are the interest rates going to do? What's the competition going to be? You can turn that one paragraph into 14. Make it a valuable statement.
Mm-hmm.
Me, this is why this is good. I tend to get to the point and I leave out all the fluff, which is important. I'm learning that.
Yeah. And what this has the power to do, Tom, and everyone, is show that you are a trusted authority. You might be new, doesn't matter. If you're well-read, if you know the numbers, you're going to know more than most agents know. You just are. You just are. Any other thoughts about this? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, sure. It sounds like, in the beginning and this portion here, you're addressing their initial concern. And in a lot of instances, whether you're new or not, taking that time, you address their concern, and then opening the door to the real question to try to uncover what that objection is. What are you hoping will happen?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's good. And like he said, you could turn this into 14 paragraphs. You could talk for half an hour on just this one subject matter right here. And that's where we want to get into. At least I try to get into, because then you get to display the knowledge that you have of the market. If we're doing this every day, you're going to know stuff. I had this conversation yesterday, with a client. What are you guys hoping is going to happen? They're wanting to sell their house, and they're wanting to rush it and try to put it on the market, even though it's still being built. And so some of these points came up in the conversation, and we took time and addressed both sides of that so they could see, what's it look like if we list it now while it's still under construction. What's it going to look like if you list it in June when it's finished? What's the difference in the market going to be? Buyers going to be feeling like during that time, so it's good.
Yeah. So anyone else?
May I add something after both Tom and Scott's very eloquent thought process here? I completely agree. We have to, sometimes I'm and I'm very analytical, maybe to my demise.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of psychology in this here. And even just talking to people about making one of the most biggest purchases in their life can be unsettling for them, especially if they're first time buyer. They've never done it before. So they're feeding off of the speculation and what Google is saying, and maybe friends in their circle of influence. But, when the first sentence here that ends up in a question, right? So I understand that thinking. It's setting it up to elicit their concerns, right? And a lot of times that's how I kind of frame my discussions with people is you kind of set up the question and you allow them to sometimes dig deeper into their own thinking, like, you know what, I don't even know why I'm asking that.
Mhm.
Help me to kind of,
And a lot of times too, yeah. I think too, a lot of times we go into some of these conversations and we don't know these people very well. This may be a new relationship. And
Yeah.
so that might be part of the reluctance on their part to really share what is digging at them. But by opening up those channels, you can kind of start to build that trust, and that's part of our job too.
And that's you're so right. I'm sure we all heard that we'll reveal more to a stranger than we will to a good friend.
Mhm.
A short flight on the airplane, and you're telling your whole life story or hearing a life story of someone, right? So, but no, you're right, Scott. It's very true. You're building trust. So if we always keep in mind the end goal is not necessarily in this sequence or in this order, but trust, building trust, and asking these very pertinent questions and getting them out of fear and more into that trust circle. But yeah, sorry for the long explanation.
No, thank you. Thank you for the discussion. Okay, let's just look at the next paragraph, the next sentence, I guess, and with a question, and another question that's going to go back to, I want to wait and see what the market is going to do, if it's whether it's buyers or sellers. So the question is, are you waiting for prices to drop? So if you're talking to a buyer, they may have heard, we don't know, they may have read the prices are going to drop. We can go to the internet right now, and there are people who specialize in short sale and foreclosure properties. And people who are in that business, part of what they have to do is legitimize their business by finding whatever they can find to make sure people understand that from their point of view, that there's going to be a whole bunch of foreclosures. There's going to be a lot of short sales, and there are going to be massive price drops. There are people predicting that the market is going to collapse. I'm listening to the radio coming here, which I usually don't. I usually listen to podcasts, but I had the radio on. They were talking about, the gold, the price of gold going down. I'm sure if you guys listen, I know nothing about cryptocurrency, but it's taken a huge hit in the last week or two where things are dropping. So a lot of people may say, I'm going to wait for prices to drop. How are you going to respond to that? It's a question, because you're going to hear it at any time and asking the question. So are you waiting for prices to drop? If they're a seller, you want to make sure, or in this statement, I'm going to make sure that you aren't homeless. That's where I would sell your home. And you're going to be homeless, or you're going to own two homes at once. Okay. So number two, I can appreciate where you're coming from. Okay, that's the same thing as above. I understand your thinking. This one is, I can appreciate where you're coming from. I'm not here to sell you on the idea if you must sell or must buy, because there's a lot of uncertainty going on right now. And then there's a but here. What I want to tell you is that I have some real estate data, real stats to share with you to explain why I think this is a great opportunity to buy and or sell. If you look at our stats, if you look at what our stats were month after month and year after year, here's where I stand. And then that's where your data goes. The data can be a rental chart, which is available in Keeping Current Matters. It's the same chart. I don't know if you've all seen it. If you haven't, raise your hand and I'll put it on our Facebook page. It's this chart that talks about rental. It's a big red graphic, and it shows this thing, it shows like a mountain, like you're climbing a mountain, and it gets to where rental prices are going, not rates, but where rental prices are going. Have you all seen that? The red one? Anybody? No? You got to see this, because I'm writing this down, rental chart. If you show this to anybody, and I'm getting off script here, but that's okay, I think. If you show this to anybody who is a renter, and I used charts like this when I worked with renters, trying to convert them to buyers. And I wasn't trying to convert them because I'd make a lot of money from doing that. I would, but I tried to convert them because I could show them renting is one of the worst possible things that you could possibly do historically. Let me show you. When you do that, and that's where this connects right here, where you insert the data about your local market. Well, these are national statistics and they're not changing. And you can find the data. I would suggest to all of you that if there is a rental company that you have worked with, because not all of your clients are going to be in a position to buy a home. They may be told by their lender, now you can't buy. I'm working with one from Utah. He's moving here. He's going to change jobs. There's no way he's going to get a loan. He's not going to be able to show that he's been at the same employment for 2 years, all of the stuff that lenders are looking for. And so, I sent him the data of where rents are going, but I have to try to help him. So I'll send you that chart, because it proves without any question where people are going, well, I think renting is better. You can show them this chart. Okay, so what kind of data could you insert about the local area of where things have been month to month? Where might you find that kind of information for our local market? Anyone? Has anyone done that?
Yeah, you can go to the MLS.
I'm guessing Jerry has done a lot of that. Do you do it with graphs or charts? How do you do it, Jerry?
Yeah, I can do either or. Like I said, if you go to the MLS, you can pull the information from, your historical values and things like that. You can do it by the month. You can do it by the year. I mean, you just kind of plug and play what you're wanting to show the value of and everything like that, show the growth of. Do it by zip code, by city, whatever, I don't say fits the narrative, but whatever will tell the story of the area that you're in.
So we have the data, and the good news for all of us is we don't have to try to make the data work for us. It works for us, doesn't it, Jerry? I mean, it just works. There's no data that's going to show consistently that prices are going down or that they are going to go down. And maybe rising interest rates will have something to do with that. But as long as we have low inventory, we are protected. Okay. Let's go to the next one. I just don't want to do one today, but this, if you'll scroll up just a little bit, Scott. By the way, if everybody just joined, Scott's controlling the, go back. I want to get to the one that says, go back just a little ways, Scott. Go back up. Yeah, right there. Okay, we haven't covered this, I don't think. Oops, you went too far. Keep going, keep going. Can you keep moving it? Gosh.
You want me to go down in pages or up?
Yeah,
in
I want you to
pages?
go to page, still on page 12,
Oh,
I think.
here's 12.
Okay, now let's just see. Where do I want to be? Gosh, I hate when I can't do this myself, but I appreciate you, Scott. Okay,
This is 12.
okay. So the objection is I want to wait to see what the market is going to do. Okay, so this is kind of like where I might say to someone that says that to me, I might say, I totally understand what you're saying. I don't have a crystal ball. And I've used this so many times over 30 years. I don't have a crystal ball. I've heard even Tammy Bonnell refer to a crystal ball when she talks about things. I don't have a crystal ball that's going to tell me what the future is going to do, but let me show you what the indications are of where it's going to go. Again, it's about data. So the idea here is that you want to serve the clients and you want to be able to help them. In this one, did we cover this one yet? Once we get to, okay, here are some options. I understand that thinking, these are uncertain times. What are you hoping will happen in certain price ranges? Did we do this one?
Yes.
Okay, then go up a little bit.
So here's page 11.
Okay, keep going.
Just going up. So here's 10.
Oh, I want you to go to 13. I'm sorry. I'm so
13.
sorry.
Go. Okay. Sorry. You say
No.
up and I'm thinking scroll up, not like page up.
You know, I have the same argument at home
Okay.
about stuff where I say, let's go up. Oh, it's the TV changer. Go up to channel
Right.
and they go down and yeah, so I have the argument.
Right.
Okay.
So here's the next client objection. Price is going to go down. I think I'll just wait. And then 13 is here.
Okay. No, go up. Just go a little more to the bottom of the page. Keep going. I'm sorry, everybody.
List.
Keep moving it. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going, Scott.
14.
Keep
15.
going. Okay, stop. Okay. 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 Oops. Okay. Now let's look at this. This one has to do with the COVID thing. I want to buy, but I'm going to wait until it's safe to go out again. Do you think you might still hear this one? You think you might hear this one? I mean, there are still
there's people.
There are scared. There's still people that may not want to list their property because, you know, what if people touch my stuff and I don't want to get COVID. I doubt that this is still a big one, but I just want to talk about it for a second before we go, because if this objection comes up, what do you want to say? And, you know, so the answer is they say, I want to buy, but I'm going to wait until till I feel it's safe. And they might not safe to say to go out again. That's pretty extreme where we're at now, but there's still some people out there that are very concerned. They might say, but I think I'm just going to wait until this whole COVID thing is just done, just because I don't want to deal with putting on booties every house I go to and sanitizing my hands and wearing a mask. I just don't want to go through that. That is real, I think. So do you know exactly when it will be safe? Do you still need to move? So the question is what do they need to do? You need to know this. When do you need to move? So that is the perfect answer to this objection. I totally understand, Mr. Jones, but when do you need to move? When is your lease up? When do you need to move to your new job? You told me, Mr. Jones, you're relocating to the other side of Dallas. When does that need to happen for the new job you're taking at Raytheon and that you need to be there? Because sometimes the real need can outweigh the concern. The real need can outweigh the concern. And it's a real concern. But when do you need to move in? And I want you to keep in mind this, that I forget about a lot. When I do the intake of a new client, a buyer client, I have always done an interview process, okay? I do a buyer's presentation and I ask a lot of questions and one of the questions I ask is, what's the time frame that we need to move, okay, for a buyer? If it's a seller, I ask the same question. When do we need to get your home sold in order to get you to the new job, in Madison, Wisconsin. What do we need to do in order to do this? Remember these dates. These are dates that they're giving you because you need to remind them. When I've called expireds, this isn't an expired class, but when I've called expireds, one of the questions I always ask is, where were you planning to move to? So you listed your home with ABC Realty. It didn't sell. Why were you selling and where were you going? Those are really important questions because they can't give you fake information unless they do. They could say, well, we're not moving, we just wanted to sell. But it's getting to the bottom of it. Time frames are huge. Question next, it says, what will make you feel safer when you go out? Or what things could I do to help you feel comfortable in deciding now is the right time? Lean into their concerns. You may think this is the stupidest thing ever. I don't have any fear of anything. You might be the opposite. I don't know where you are, but lean in. And, I understand that. So is there something I could do to help you feel safer, to be more comfortable when we look at homes, when you're selling your home? I understand people are going to be coming through the home and you have some fear about that. How could I make you feel more comfortable? So here are some things that are in the script. Here are some things I've been doing for my clients: virtual showings, Zoom meetings, electronic signatures, written comprehensive inspection reports, and drive-up showings and more. Do you know there's some agents that don't have dot loop, that they don't have a place where they can get electronic signatures signed? There's still agents that don't have that. So they actually have to go out and drive, an hour to another side of town to get a signature. And some people don't have that technology. And don't assume people know you have the technology. So you might say, I've taken every step to make you as comfortable as possible. I do blank, 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 blank. Next, he says, if we could keep contact to a minimum, would you still want to stay on the schedule? Are we still moving forward? Okay. So that's all I'm going to cover in these scripts today. I think we've covered the most important thing because it is going to come up now that at any time that we're not ready to move. And we just need to have the language to be able to help them move. Remind them what they told you, okay, of prior conversations. And you might do it in a very polite way. You don't want to say, well, wait a second, you told me you wanted to move by June. What? You just want to remind them, say, well, I totally understand what you're saying. When we first met, I asked a lot of questions. You might remember that was a 45-minute meeting. And when I asked you the questions, I asked the questions for a reason. I wanted to make sure I was able to serve you in the way that you would be happy with. And so you told me, if I understood correctly in my notes, that you wanted to move in June. So how can we make this possible? How can we get to June? Because prices are continuing to go up. They're not going up at 20% like they did last year, but they're still going to continue to escalate. It's called appreciation. By the way, you can show people who have questions about what appreciation has done. I have a chart. I'll see if I can find it. I'm just marking this down, that shows where appreciation has been for the past 70 years. It's a really cool chart because, again, you can show this chart to people. You can show them what's happened in the last 3 years. It's gonna blow their socks off. We all know that because prices have just gone crazy. But if you show people who are feeling that it's really going to stop, you can show them over the last 70 years with proof that prices have consistently gone up about 3.5% a year. Now that's taking highs, that's taking lows. It goes up and down, but consistently, if we draw a line from 70 years ago and we draw a line across a page, it's going to it's going to climb, I don't know, 45-degree angle, it's going to go up. So we can prove what we're saying is correct. So whenever we can, grab what we can, show them that we're knowledgeable, and be compassionate. Remember, when we first opened the script and Scott, opened the page up, we looked at those things that build rapport, that educate, not debate, that dig deep into what their concerns are, and to share your experience with them, to share with them what you've seen in the marketplace. Again, one thing I mentioned the other day somewhere, but I'm not even sure where it was. It might have been last Thursday. Stories are the lifeline of a real estate agent's life. Stories are going to help you. Some of you don't have stories yet to be able to make people feel comfortable, to put them inside your head and help them understand what's happening. Stories really are your lifeline. So if you don't have stories to prove where prices have gone, you might have had personal experience. I'm guessing, I know Jerry's selling properties, Scott's selling properties, some of you are just getting going, but stories can help you. Well, let me tell you how it worked with the last client I worked with. They had the same concern that you had, and this is what we did. Now, the last thing I'd say about stories is if you do not have a story, steal somebody else's story if you know it's legit and it's true. So there's a lot of real estate stories out there. If you listen to real estate podcasts, you're going to get stories. If you listen to Tom Ferry videos or any videos, you're going to get stories. Use stories to help legitimize who you are and help people know that, oh yeah, what you're saying is not uncommon. I've had people that have blank because they were blank. Scott, Jerry, can you think of a story in your business that you've used recently to help a client understand your position? Can you think of anything? I'm putting you on the spot, but can you think of a story that might have helped you move to the next place in helping a client?
Just thinking about yesterday's meeting, and I don't really have a specific story about a couple that is currently building or finishing building their home and considering either waiting to sell it until it is to list it until it's complete 100%, or entertaining the idea of putting it on the market while it's still under construction. But I was able to make up a story
Okay, all right.
that that kind of would illustrate to them that hey, I've had a client in the past that was building and they thought about trying to sell it before it was finished, and a couple of the things that they ran into perhaps was, are you prepared to have any potential buyer that's coming in decide that they want to start making some changes to your design? And, oh, well, we really want this type of appliances, even though you just spent $25,000 on brand new appliances for your design, right? Or we want these types of surfaces on our counters or these types of floors instead of the ones that you've already chosen. So would you rather deal with that, or would you rather deal with your designer and finish your project how you designed it? Just trying to bring in some of those things. Or you've only got one shot to make an impression on this property, and if we start putting it up there to the Zillows and the Redfins and the all those places are going to catch it and they're going to see it under construction, is that going to make the best first impression out there in the market to any buyers that want to come buy your home?
Okay, so you've raised a question for them, and at some point you're going to be able to say to them, after you do this, and maybe after you list this home, so here's my experience when I worked with somebody, you're going to be able to tell the story. They decided to do this, and this is what happened because of it. Jerry, can you think of anything?
Well, one I've used myself. I use myself as the example because some of these people are like, well, I need to wait now, see what the market's going to do and everything. I used to work in finance as well, so I can just tell people, look, we've got historical values. We know what the market has done historically. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know anybody that does, so we don't know what the market's going to do. And then I use myself as a prime example. I think it was either the first or second house that I bought myself. You're waiting to lock in for interest rates. Well, around the time that we were doing it ourselves, the Fed had cut interest rates, and that caused housing interest rates to drop. And they cut interest rates again, and housing interest rates drops. So I knew that the Fed was meeting, say, Thursday, and there were going to be another rounds of drops, potentially, whatever the case may be. Sure enough, they did meet. They did drop rates, but for some reason, the mortgage rates ricocheted and went the opposite direction. Don't even know what that was. Haven't dove back into that myself. But by me waiting personally, and I use myself as that example, I ended up probably getting another percentage or more added to my mortgage. At that point, it was, I forget, it was late 90s or early 2000s, whatever like that. Interest rates, I think I was looking at about a 6% rate or something like that, which is totally baffled right now because people go back crazy. And the interest rates ricocheted, and it went from like 6 to 7.25, 7.5 overnight. And I had to lock in because I was up against that wall. So now I'm locked in at a 7.25, 7.5% interest rate because I waited. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, our buyer, I can't tell you what the market's going to do, but historically, here's what's happened. We can see that rates are going to rise this year, but not potentially. It's written that they are going to rise due to inflation and everything like that. So if you can make that move now, it might be wise, and it could save you some money in the end. Again, I use myself as that example, especially for interest rates.
Yep. And I think using yourself as an example is it's not just a story of buyers or sellers. This is you. And let me tell you how this affected, my wife and I, because interest rates climbed 1.25%. It raised our payments to where we really had to make sacrifices.
Oh, it hurt.
Yeah.
It hurt.
Yeah. And we were able to do it. But I've got to tell you, I don't want that to happen to you. And so, using emotional things like that, I'm just going to tell you one. I can't remember the exact story because this happened 25 years ago, but it had to do with allowing somebody, I think Scott's maybe heard this, but allowing somebody to have early possession of a property that I had, that I was selling. And it happens all the time, I understand, here in Texas, where, there's even on the form, you can lease back. It's called a lease back here. What I learned years ago is never do a lease back, ever, never, ever. And so I'm up against it here because it's a widely accepted practice here. But I allowed, and I told the sellers, this buyer made an offer. He wanted early possession of the property. That means that he wanted possession before it closed, and it was his. My sellers gave him early possession against my advisement that, do you really want someone moving into your home before it actually closes? And they said, well, we just want to get done with this. Yes, we want to do it. And what happened was they allowed somebody in this small community that I lived in, that everybody knew, that was a nice guy. As a matter of fact, he was the district president for the Boy Scouts of America. God, how much better can a guy be if he's, the Boy Scout guy, at least at that time. Now it's kind of questionable. And so they said, we'll give him early possession. Part of the early possession was he could not make any changes to the property until it closed. Everybody understood that, so I actually, I didn't do both sides, but, I talked to the other agent and I said, you are sure that they're not going to make any change? No, they're not going to make it. It's okay. The people moved in, and they moved in 2 weeks ahead of time. As it turns out, after 2 weeks, it was discovered that the buyer had gone through a divorce and was behind in child support payments by whatever, $30,000. And he could not get the house. So he was already there. We gave him early possession. That's bad enough. But this buyer went in and tore out walls in the house. He literally went in and he sledgehammered the walls because he wanted to make a big room from tiny rooms in this older home. So now we had a property. This guy had to go because he couldn't buy the house. And now I had a house for sale that had all the downstairs walls knocked out. So that's a story that I can tell people who are talking about early possession. You know, early possession is an accepted practice, but here's what can happen. We can do our very best to protect you, and I will do my very best to protect you. But I want you to know of some of the things that can happen. So that story, when told, can settle people down if they want to give early possession, or at least advise them of the hazards. So that's what we're looking to do. So we're almost at an hour, I think. Maybe we're there 2 minutes. Anything anybody has to add? And before we go, thank you, Scott, for doing these slides for me. I'll get it figured out by next week. Any thoughts anybody has? I'd love to hear, and please share them. It helps everyone. Nothing? Okay, well, I hope this helps, and I hope it's something you can use. And thank you for your comments, Tom and Pascal. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and I hope it's helped. We'll be on again next Tuesday. Look for more scripts. I'll be here Thursday with Tom Ferry. And on the Tom Ferry call, we're going to be talking about how to do an open house. And I know that's some questions that some of the new agents have. I can assure you there's going to be some new things to tell you for those of you that have done open houses, and how you can make the most of every open house that you do. Because it's so important today. And for a lot of people, it may be your lifeline to staying in real estate before you get your first deal. Open houses are a huge opportunity. We'll talk about that Thursday. So I'll try to get all the slides and everything working by them. If not, I'll just give Scott a call because he can come to the rescue. Appreciate all of you. Have a great day. Talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Have a good day.